Welcome back. I think last time you saw me, it was in a video about a day in the life as a head barista. And yes, that is one of the things that I do. So there's that. If you want to know more about what that looks like or what, a more in-depth day-to-day looks like, let me know. But yeah, I just thought I would come on here for a quick chat. I wanted to kind of have a deeper conversation about relationships and friendships and how we interact with them, because adult friendships are so hard. So hard. I'm getting completely whited out here. Nobody told me that lighting would be the hardest part. Adult friendship is one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with and kind of navigated. When you're younger, you're kind of lumped into a group of friends, with it's school or sports or the arts or whatever you're doing. You're seeing the same people. You have your parents, friends, kids, and you kind of just grow up with the people that you grow up with. As you get older and older and older, you kind of get to pick and choose who those people are. There's a lot of different things that either make those relationships successful or not. And I guess you define successful relationship, right? Like I mentioned before, that this season of life that I was in really just didn't allow for me to be present with my friends. It didn't allow me to show up for my people in the ways that I normally would or would really want to. And it's tricky. It's really tricky to navigate, and it's really, really humbling, especially on the other side of it, to, really wrestle with how I wasn't able to show up for those people in the ways that I wanted to. I wasn't able to, support them the way I wanted to support them, whether it was literally a birthday gift or showing up to dinners or going out or any of those things. It was so hard for me to be there fully with those people. And you can totally tell when your friend is just not with you in that moment. In other ways, there are just, as you get older, more life responsibilities and commitments that you have, and trying to navigate how to keep being in relationship with people is hard. It's hard work. How are you supposed to make all this space for relationships and for your friends with all of the other things that are going on around you, especially when it's tough? I think that was the reality that I was faced with in this last year, is that the things that were going on in my life weren't just like, oh, I'm busy. It was, I was dealing with hard things, and that doesn't excuse how I show up. So how do you show up different? How do you show up better? And getting through that space or that time period, how do you, jump back in? Can you jump back in? I don't know. I think especially over a long period of time, things shift and they move a bit. The relationships are so dynamic, right? They are just like life, and how we choose to engage in them makes the difference. It's so clear that relationships are constantly ebbing and flowing, and listen, ebb and flow, baby, ebb and flow. But relationships are so big and so small and so complex and so full of depth, and sometimes they're getting coffee while others it's crying on the living room floor. Sometimes it's the barista in your cafe who asks you, how are you? And sometimes it's the family member that you wish didn't show up to the holiday dinner. So how does it work? I think that circumstance often dictates a lot of how we are able to show up for people, and that's just kind of a harsh reality. I think that circumstance often dictates a lot of how you're able to show up for people. However, on the other side of, the circumstance I was in, now it's time to take responsibility. Man, it's just always work, isn't it? As you get older and as your relationships and your friendships get more complex, you really, really learn how to discern who can speak into your life and who can't speak into your life, and what boundaries you have to keep in place. And there are people that are in your life for certain seasons and that add value in certain spaces and not in others, and that's totally okay. There are friends that I see every day that don't speak into my life the same way my longtime best friend speaks into my life. It's different. There are varying degrees of what that looks like, and the real part is that I get to decide what that looks like. I'm in control of where the boundaries are in place and what I'm going to allow to really sit with me, because words are really powerful. I've always felt like words are super powerful. I have this really, really distinct memory growing up. And this could be a total farce, but it made the biggest impact on me and how I thought about what I said. Growing up over the summer, we did this science project where we took 2 jars of rice, and this is straight up just gonna sound crazy, so bear with me. But we took 2 cooked jars of rice, and in one we put it in the dark, and my mom would make us say mean words to this jar of rice. We would call it ugly, and we would say, you suck. And as a kid, every bad word that you weren't allowed to say, you were allowed to say it to this jar of rice. Then we kept the other jar of rice in another dark spot, and we would take it out and we would say you are gorgeous, you are beautiful, you are kind. And again, this is just crazy. But regardless of how it worked itself out, the jury is still very much so out on that. The jar of rice that we said horrific, mean things to was moldy and gross and rotten. And the one we said kind things to was not. Listen. Please hear me when I say this. I understand this is probably just, my mom making a fresh batch of rice the day we looked at them and putting that one in the kind jar. However, it impacted me so strongly just to see that visual representation of how much our words can affect, right? So how do you engage with those relationships? How do you engage with your friends? How are you speaking to them and into them? Even if it's just the barista at the coffee shop, or it's the, stubborn uncle who, please, could we just not talk about politics? How are you talking to them? How are you speaking to them? Even not to them. Because those things still, I feel like, if they aren't affecting the other person, they still affect how you continue to think about this person. I think as you get older, you have to learn how to assess, right? How do you know when to engage and when to step back, and what does that look like? And really, how are you able to show up Are you able to show up with 100%, or are you not? And those things are okay. I know that I really struggled to show up for people, and have had to go on the other side of things and really sit down and ask, how can I show up for you? Because I haven't been able to, but I want to. Friendships are so important, and it sounds super cheesy and corny, but there is literal like power to friendships, right? Power to relationship. I know I, for one, really struggled when I kind of isolated and I just felt stuck and alone, and even the times that I was with my friends, I didn't feel that friendship, right? Because I wasn't an active participant. Scientifically, which is kind of crazy, like, you are designed to thrive in community and in relationship. The health benefits of like lifelong friends are kind of wild. You are extremely less likely to be dealing with depression or have any chronic illnesses or have heart problems. And it's so crazy to me that if we're gonna like study all these like medical conditions and like make sure we take precautions about how we eat because we don't want to have a heart problem, or what we're doing in those spaces, why aren't we doing the same in our relationships? We're not investing as much time into that. I don't know, just 2 cents. You know, friendships literally, you know, can help establish mental clarity and just feel like you have a space to be heard and have a trusting relationship. And I think it's really hard to, you know, have that feeling and that authenticity and that trust, especially in the day and age of always being on the internet, which, I mean, here we are. I guess, like, what happens when that goes wrong? When being in community and being in relationship goes wrong? I like to think of it a lot more as a, hey, it's time to self-assess. When something's going wrong and, you know, there's just conflict, which is inevitable. You're going to have conflict. Am I being open? And am I being honest? Am I really just standing my ground because I'm stubborn? Have I considered how the other person feels? We forget, and I guess I say we very liberally, but I know I forget to put empathy into action, to put myself in their shoes, especially when you're in a relationship with someone for a long time. I think that, you know, these little things build and build and build and build and build, and like, what are you supposed to do now? I'm so mad. And then I think of all of the things that you've ever done. Listen, clarify, respond, baby. It comes back to humility. It comes back to humility. You have to acknowledge that there are 2 people in this relationship, and there are 2 people that are seeing things from incredibly complex and unique perspectives that matter. Ultimately, what do you care about? And I'm not saying, like, please, I'm not saying, oh my gosh, they completely betrayed me, yada, yada, yada. Like, do what you need to do. Put up a boundary. Don't be friends with that type of person, for sure. I just think about how relationships require so much humility, right? What if I was able to listen a little bit longer and not react, and really hear the person that's standing in front of me? Isn't that what you want? To be heard, to be listened to be known by somebody, or don't. Or don't. think in those moments when you do have conflict, it's very abundantly clear whether you found your people or not. Obviously, people grow and evolve and learn and change and do these things. But it's easy to be in relationship with someone when it's all good. But when it gets tough, one circumstance has you all over, and you aren't able to show up, and you aren't able to see clearly, and you're not able to be who you want to be in friendships. That's when you know, right? That's when you know you found your people, because your people still show up for you. Because this is not a one-way thing. I know for certain that I wouldn't have made it through the last year without my friends constantly checking in on me and supporting me and showing up for me in ways that I can't even begin to pay back or thank them enough for. And I'm so grateful for each of those people and the ways that they showed up for me. And it's good to know that I found my people, you know? I don't know. Maybe I'm just harping on something that's not even worth your time, but I know how I want to show up for people. And I know that I want to show up for them the ways that they showed up for me. That's kind of all. I know it feels like a massive brain dump about friendships, obviously. If you were to even start new friendships with that type of intentionality and authenticity and just realness, dang, maybe you wouldn't feel alone. Like, dang, maybe I wouldn't be struggling with these things. Or, wow, what does it look like to learn and grow from someone in your life? That's crazy. That's crazy. Thanks for listening to me rattle on about, honestly, the literal power of friendship. I hope that you're able to take something away from this. If not, that's fine too. I'm glad you could hang out and just have a quick chat. Yeah. See you next time.